Welcome to a live HQ Spotlight on this Tuesday. I'm Tommy Tran, where we are knee-deep in this holiday week. Got a lot of NFL starting Christmas Day. We're going to get to those games. But first, the latest power rankings from one Pete Prisco. You can find the entire list on CBSSports.com. There's a new number one atop Pete's penthouse, and it's the Seattle Seahawks, who beat the Rams last Thursday in a thriller. In terms of the top 10, Rams and Broncos are big fallers, but this is how Pete has taken a list of his 1 through 32. Then there's also some tiers that he's put together, broken down the premier teams into 3 separate tiers. New number one, chasing a championship, and then playoffs loading.
I don't do the tiers.
He said he doesn't do the tiers.
You didn't do the tiers.
I don't
Oh, me and Haz gave him gruff about it last week.
I don't do the tiers.
Okay, Pete not claiming responsibility for said tiers.
Put a name on it, Pete.
Believe me, I put my name on those power rankings for about 25 years. I don't do the tiers.
Different content.
Yeah.
Okay. Pete Prisco, Douzable. And let's get things started, Pete, with that new number one. How did you arrive with Seattle at the top?
Because they've earned the right to be there. I mean, when you beat the team that was at the top, and okay, it wasn't a great performance, but they found a way. You get a punt return by Shaheed.
Yep.
You get a big reverse by Shaheed, and then Sam Darnold wakes up in overtime and makes plays. And they earned the right to be in the number one spot. Do I think they're going to stay there for the rest of the year? No. But as of right now, they're the number one team. You think they're going to win it all?
Well, no, you're saying at the number one spot. I'm talking about throughout the regular season.
I don't think they are either.
Think they can lose one of the last two?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, they got some tough ones. They got Carolina, and then they have the 49ers at 49ers.
The last
That's
one.
the game you're looking at?
The last one.
It'll be interesting, right? Because I know, Pete, you've always said, what Sam Darnold are we getting in December? And for a good portion of that game, he kind of reverted back to his old self, especially against pressure. And there has to be something, right, when it comes to Chris Shula and him. He just has his number. Right, we saw the game earlier this year, 4 interceptions in that game. Go back to the playoff game. Like, he bludgeoned him in that game. But what I loved, and I talked to you about this last week, Pete, was that I loved that he was able to put a game-winning drive together versus the Colts, and he did it versus the Rams. And he didn't do that last year. So I would think that would give him confidence. You could tell after the game he was so elated. He was interacting with the crowd because you could tell that was a weight kind of lifted off of his chest because people have been talking about it. When is that shoe going to drop? When is that shoe going to drop? And for him to continue the battle like he battled and lead his team to victory, I think goes a long way in his confidence and also can propel the Seahawks to maybe a championship.
The thing I have worry about them is they called that game like they were afraid to let him go. And they lead the league in rushing attempts. I mean, that's what they want to do, and they're not a very good rushing team. So
and Walker actually ran the ball well.
He did, but if you look at their rushing numbers, they run the ball, but they're not good at it, and they almost should be. Are they protecting him? And that's my concern with them going forward.
He's had moments, though, where he's obviously the streak that he had in prime time against the Commanders, some other games where he's definitely thrown out, but you're not convinced that that is being unleashed in terms of Kubiak and Darnold.
No, and he struggles. He struggled in that game.
He did.
But he made the plays in the moment. And if, like you said, if he can build off of that, then they have a chance to do something special.
I would also say this. For some odd reason, they got to find a way to get JSN going early. The last couple of weeks, they've waited until the second half to get him going. Yes, he's going to be doubled, but the best players can get open. The way he's able to run routes and separate, just figure out ways. Now, I love what they did. Clint Kubiak put him in the backfield a lot to get some mismatches, and that's how they started getting the ball in the second half. But if you're the Seahawks team, you got to get your best player going early in the game.
Lige, you brought up terms of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I think in many ways we thought the Jacksonville Jaguars would try to revert back to the Jaguars to some degree. Pete, they haven't yet so far. Big win against the Broncos. What statement was made in your eyes moving them up?
That was an enormous statement for them.
It was.
I mean, look, they've taken that whole small market thing and run with it. Sean Payton said it's a nice football team from a small market, considering he won a Super Bowl in New Orleans, which is a small market, in case anybody's wondering. But again, they've kind of used that as a rallying cry. I don't think it made them play any harder. It shouldn't anyway. You should be able to go play a good team like that. You should play hard anyways. But the reality is they're a good football team right now. And the quarterback's playing out of his mind.
Man.
And what Liam Cohn has done for Trevor Lawrence is incredible. The bad habits from early in the season when people were saying he's a bust are gone. He's getting the ball out on time. His eye level has gone back up again. It had come down. He started looking at the rush. He wasn't taking shots down the field. Now all of a sudden he's doing all of that and playing at a high level. They protected the quarterback for the most part. They still had 5 sacks, but 2 of them were covered sacks on the first 2 drives. They kind of settled in after that. I still don't know how good they are on defense. And that is a little bit of a concern for me going forward. But I think offensively, they're going to score a lot of points.
Pete, there's not a quarterback over the last month that's playing with more confidence. And I would say maybe Matt Stafford's close second. But the way Trevor Lawrence is playing, 14 total touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And the part that you didn't bring up, he's using his mobility too, because, we've been talking about that as well. You're a mobile quarterback. We saw that in the Kansas City game on the failed snap, and it gets into the end zone. But he's starting to use his mobility a lot more, and he's being decisive with the football. I think also you said, shout out to Liam Cohen, because the way he schemes up plays, I mean, he out-leveraged the Denver defense, and Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, never adjusted to it. And Trevor Lawrence knew exactly where to go with the football. And you know this, Pete, once you start making a couple completions, you get a lot more confidence, and you know how to get through your progressions quicker. The other thing that I love about Liam Cohen, he doesn't care about your draft status. BTJ was a guy, and you've even said that you thought coming into this year could be a top 5 receiver. Well, they've really leaned on Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington. Those guys are getting more reps than him now. It's because they built a rapport with Trevor Lawrence. And I think that also sends a message to the team. Like, if you come in here and you're not playing to a certain level and somebody is, we're going to give them an opportunity. And if I'm on that team, I love that. That makes me want to play for that coach, because just because you have a draft status doesn't mean you're going to get the reps. So I love that he's set that culture in that locker room. And like you said, they fed off that small market feeling that Sean Payton put out there. You never want to give that bulletin board material. But you can tell this team right now, if they were to get one of the top 2 seeds, they're going to be a tough out.
They're going to be a tough out anyways, because think about this. They've already gone on the road, beat San Francisco. They went on the road, beat Denver, and they blew out the Chargers. Those are 3 teams that are going to be in the playoffs, and might be 2 of those are going to be division winners, because the Chargers or the Broncos are going to win. The other one in the 49ers can be. So the only team that blew out Jacksonville was the Rams in London. It's the only one. Every other game they were in.
Early in the season, they benefited from the defense turning teams over, and that dried up a little bit. But then coincidentally, the offense you see there, of course, with Myers, the yards per attempt are certainly up, which, Pete, I know you liked. It used to be too much east-west, and now they're actually going down the field.
Well, he used to take the check down instead of taking the deep ball. Now he's taking the deep ball.
Let's get to the Bears. They had the big win there in line for the NFC North right now. Caleb Williams once again showing that late-game mettle there, Pete Prisco. Where are you at with the Bears right now?
Look, you got to be impressed with what they did the other night. The fact that you won a game that you probably shouldn't have won.
No.
I mean, look, recover the onside kick, they don't win the game. Different narrative. But they did. They made the play, and he made the plays when he needed to make the plays. And that's the thing about this team. We talk about Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence. Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, all his bad habits, or a lot of them, have gone away. Not all of them, but a lot of them have gone away. He's confident. He's making plays in the big moments, and they can run the football. They're physical when they want to run the football, and that kind of opens things up for him. Look, he was playing without his top 2 wide receivers, or 2 of the top wide receivers last week, and he still made the plays. So kudos to him. Kudos to Ben Johnson. They've earned their right to be where they are in the power rankings, and they got a tough game this week at San Francisco. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, too.
Now, I think you have them a little bit high now, rightfully so, right? They've earned their right to be a top 10 team. Even though Denver lost, I still would have Denver above them. I would probably have the 49ers.
You can't let go.
Oh, but I would have the Chargers. I would have the Chargers above them too. Honestly, I would. I really would. And we'll talk about the Chargers later. But you're right. Everything you said about Caleb Williams, more specifically the last 2 weeks, he's playing within structure and within the offense. Where earlier in the season, sometimes just getting out of the pocket too early when he didn't necessarily need to. We know you have that ability to make any throw on the field, and we know you have the athletic ability to get out the pocket and make off-platform throws. But that touchdown throw with all-out pressure, staying in the pocket, presence of mind to drift to the left just a little bit to buy yourself time, that's all-league throw to DJ Moore for the game winner. And this guy has taken this game to the next level. I know the other question people were asking, can they continue to be opportunistic on defense? They keep doing it every single week. I thought Nashawn Wright should have been a Pro Bowler. I thought that was a travesty that he wasn't. He leads the league in forced turnovers this year. And another forced turnover last week that propelled them to win that game. So the defense just continues to turn people over. They don't have a really good pass rush, and that's my biggest concern when you look at this team. But like Pete said, when it gets cold, they're able to run the ball. And if Caleb Williams continues to play like this, they're a tough team. Opportunistic
is probably the right way to characterize the defense, because for a long time they had a negative point differential.
Yeah.
They turned things around, but still they're kind of winning these close games, which you want, but you're putting yourself in
sometimes
some
that comes
position,
back,
right?
and it exposes
the bill
you later
comes
on.
due, correct. We'll see. But not yet, though. Not yet for those in the Windy City. So that is sort of a look at the top 5. Bears coming in at 4. You do have the Broncos via the loss there, dropping out of the top 5. Did you consider dropping them even more? And no. Okay. So you liked it right there. Defensively, can we still call them elite, Pete?
Oh, they're still elite. I mean, they just got exposed the other day. And strangely, in watching that game, they played a lot of zone to start the game, and Jacksonville had trouble getting guys open. And then they went to some blitz man-to-man situations, and he exposed them. The game plan was weird. It just wasn't a crisp performance for Denver. I still think they're a good team and a good defense. But I said this on yesterday's show. It wouldn't shock me at all to see them not win the division and see Chargers
win it?
Go in there and win that. So I think the Chargers will beat the Texans this week, and the Chargers can go there and win the division the following week, which is crazy as it seems because we all sit here thinking the Broncos were cruising maybe even to the 1 seed.
I'm not jumping off the shit, Pete. You know.
No, you're not, because that's you got them as the 85 Bears.
I'm not saying they're the 85 Bears. I think our producer Jack said that. You think I actually said that? But when you look at this, I honestly think this is a good thing for the Broncos. They were coming off an 11-game win streak. The last thing you want to go into the playoffs is with a 13-game win streak smelling yourself. Sometimes you need to get slapped around. And
I don't buy that, Lucia.
I would say this.
You think there's such a thing as a good loss?
Oh, 100%. I think sometimes you need to be slapped back to reality.
Yeah, but you still don't want to lose the game.
No, you don't want to lose, right? If you could have it, you would have like a close win instead of a loss.
Right.
I would say this. What you said about the first 2 drives were masterful because me and Logan did this breakdown of this game this past week. And I said, look for Vance Joseph to throw in some zone dogs, right? Maybe bring 5, but I have a 3 deep, 3 underneath zone. And to your point, that confused Trevor Lawrence early in the game. And then he went away from it and never went back to it. It was baffling to watch. It seemed like Liam Cohen was just miles ahead of him when it came to the schematics of the game. So that's one thing I actually do want to watch. Vance Joseph, how does he adjust going forward? But you talked about the defense being still elite. They've really struggled the last couple of weeks, more specifically on the money down. And they were number 1 in the NFL for most of the season. And in the red zone, they were number 1, and it wasn't even close. They allowed Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars to score 4 touchdowns out of 5 attempts in the red zone, something they never do. So that is a little bit concerning because they've been kind of leaky the last couple of weeks. They need to rectify that because this is a defensive-led team. I thought Bo Nix played well enough for them to win the game. The issue was the defense just could not get off the field on 3rd down. In the red zone, they gave up touchdowns. So if that's a concerning thing, but I also think it's a good thing for the Denver Broncos because, again, I don't think you want to go into the playoffs 13-game win streak feeling yourself because they still have some youth on that team.
You'd rather have the 13-game win streak and have the number one seed.
Yeah, but I mean, if they win the next 2, they still get the number 1 seed.
But Leger, you'd rather
let's not forget, Pete, they hadn't lost at home until this last week. They get the Chargers at home.
They hadn't lost at home since last November.
That's what I'm saying. I think they'll be all right. I think this was a good thing for them.
You think it's a good thing?
I don't think it's a good
victories,
thing.
half glass full, half
Not more. I'm just saying sometimes you got to slap back to reality, Tommy.
All right, we'll get to the Chargers in just a little bit, but we're going in order here. So let's get to the Niners who come in at number 7. What a performance by Brock Purdy and company on the road in Indianapolis. And I'm still trying to figure out how Kyle Shanahan's put together this double-digit win team given all the injuries, Pete, that they've had through.
This is the best coaching job of his career, and he went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Think about that for a second.
What you trying to say, Pete?
Well, I mean, this just shows you what a great job he's done. I mean, this team is decimated by injuries. Defensively, no Bosa, no Warner. They're the heart and soul of the defense, and yet here they are. If they win the next 2, they win the division, they're the number 1 seed. If they win 2 playoff games, they're playing a home Super Bowl. They could be home for the next 5 games if things play out the way they do. It's a tribute to Kyle Shanahan as a coach. And you know what? He's never been Coach of the Year, ever. If he does that, he should be Coach of the Year. And I can tell you there are a lot of good candidates out there. Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel. There's a lot of good ones. If this team is the number 1 seed in the NFC, Kyle Shanahan should be the Coach of the Year.
Without a doubt, one of the best coaching jobs Kyle Shanahan has ever done. I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. I'm going to play Pete Prisco's role. Because when you look at it, right? When
Nelly.
When they had Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, that was the last time they beat a playoff caliber team. When you look at their schedule, there's not a lot of teams that they've beat that are playoff caliber teams, especially on this win streak right now.
Or were the Colts a playoff caliber team?
They're not without Daniel Jones and all the injuries they had. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like we'll learn a lot about them the next 2 weeks. And we talked about this earlier in the offseason, Pete, because remember we were talking about the strength of schedule and they had the easiest strength of schedule. Now, a lot of times I think that's a bunch of hoopla because you just never know who's going to be healthy or not. But it's actually panned out perfectly for them because they were able to get that early win. They stole that early win versus the Seattle Seahawks and also the Rams earlier in the season off sack fumbles at the end of the game. And that's when they were actually whole on defense.
That Rams game they won with Mac Jones, by the way.
No, but they still won on the turnover at the end of the game.
Right, but they won with Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. No, I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying they had more of their defensive players when that happened. Since then, those guys have been injured, they haven't really had a key caliber, playoff caliber win on their schedule. Now, again, this is not to minimize. You play who's on your schedule, and Brock Purdy in that offense has been unstoppable the last two. They haven't punted in 2 weeks. That lets you know how great they've been.
The punter hasn't punted since November, I don't think, because then they have a bye. They had a late bye.
Maybe. It's been ridiculous that he hasn't
punted since November.
So, but like I said, Chicago, Seattle, we're learning a lot about this.
Okay, if they win those 2 games.
Oh, it's amazing.
They'll have earned it. They will have earned it.
They have earned it.
By the way, all that talk about maybe Mac Jones is as good as Brock Purdy, maybe Mac Jones.
You hear that?
No. No, never was, never will be.
So did Jacksonville kind of saw you over? Is that why you're saying that about Mac Jones?
Mac Jones is a guy. Brock
He made the Pro Bowl
Brock Purdy's legitimate.
Also helps to have a healthy Christian McCaffrey this season, which
true.
is certainly, when he's healthy, top running back.
Kittle, too.
Team is good. Chargers, we hinted at it. You gave us a scenario in which you think they could win the division, but right now they're sitting outside of your top 10, Pete.
Well, they got to earn that. You can earn your way back into that top 10. Look, Jim Harbaugh instills a toughness in his teams, and you see it. All those injuries on the offensive line, you lose your starting left tackle, your starting right tackle, and all of a sudden you look at a mishmash on the offensive line. You know how many sacks they gave up to the Cowboys last week? Not a one.
Nope.
None. Moving Salyer in at left tackle, I think, was a smart move for them. They tried a bunch of different guys that didn't work. They've kind of settled in there now. They're playing much better on the offensive line. Herbert's playing great football. And then the defense has been really, really good. And so you add that all together, I think they're more than capable of going to Denver and beating the Broncos and winning the division.
Yeah, like I said, Pete, earlier, I think they should be higher on your list. And remember, Pete, when we did the breakdown of the AFC West, I think it was midway through the season, and we were looking at their schedule and we were like, they can lose like 5 or 6 in a row. Chargers Nation, I apologize. I was wrong. Justin Herbert has elevated, and I know, Pete, you told me this last week, like the defense has kept them in game, which is true. But sometimes just elevating your team is finding ways to win. And that's what Justin Herbert has done at a high level. And you talked about it, he wasn't sacked. You know he had 42 rushing yards? That's part of the reason why. Because he knows when he gets back to that third step, and if he doesn't like 1 or 2, he needs to take off because he has issues at the offensive tackle position. That's a skill set he hasn't really used since he was at Oregon, but he's had to lean on it this year. He's coming off a 300-yard, 2 passing touchdown game and had 40-plus yards rushing. Like, he's playing at a different level. And, yes, Jesse Minter has been masterful with this defense. They're a bend, don't break. They force you to kick field goals in the red zone. And we saw that happen and come to fruition in the second half versus the Dallas Cowboys. And you could win like that. And they finally got the run game going. For the longest, people were saying, Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh, when are they going to get the physical run game going? Well, it seems like Amarion Hampton is starting to get healthy. I think this can be a real dangerous team. And you're right, they have a chance to win the AFC South and potentially be a top 2 seed. I think they should be higher on your list.
You buried him a couple weeks ago.
I just said I apologize. I told you.
And now he's going over. He's going higher.
I saw that schedule. I was like, they not coming out of that unscathed.
They've done a really good job in navigating
that schedule was grueling.
Remember, they got blown out at Jacksonville. They looked lifeless in that game, and since then they've kind of responded in a big way.
It's funny how when you play the Raiders, you seem to start playing well. The Eagles did that.
Well, they're
get-right games.
They're the tonic. Pure all tonic.
They got blown out by Jacksonville, played the Raiders, and now they're on a win streak.
They're on the precipice, if they can, to get the division, make some noise in the postseason. Guys, great first segment. We do have to hit a break here on the show, but when we come back, we'll talk about the AFC North. We'll talk the Steelers. We'll also talk about the Ravens. That battle, of course, there with Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love. That game, more coming up. Welcome back to the show. Time now to tackle a couple other tiers from Pete Prisco, which, by the way, again, he has said he did not come up with these tiers. So there's the, I don't know, Jim.
I don't know, Jim.
And then the Jeff Fisher mid, which, by the way, now with the unbalanced schedule, no more 8-8. So is it 8-9, 9-8? Is that still a Jeff Fisher type year?
8-9.
If you're hovering around 8-9, you're mid.
Okay. We've got Baltimore and Atlanta on these two tiers, which we'll talk about, but we also want to talk about the Steelers, which is outside of this I don't know, Jim, but they could be very much in that conversation this time next week. They got that exciting win against the Lions, Pete, for Pittsburgh. Again, we saw what Aaron Rodgers did. He loves playing in Motown, but right now they hold that lead over Baltimore. What do you see from Pittsburgh the rest of the way?
Two things have happened. They've gotten better on defense, and they're running the ball. Yeah. And they weren't running the ball. What's the Steelers' identity over their history? Run the ball and play good defense. Yeah. And they're starting to do both of those things. And so I think when you combine that, that's why they're playing better football. That's why they're playing Pittsburgh Steelers football. Look, Rodgers made some good throws the other day, really big-time throws. Yeah. But they ran the ball and they played good defense. And I think going forward, that's what they want to do. They have a lot of young guys on that offensive line. They've started to come together a little bit. And defensive line, they have some young guys on that defensive line mixed in with some old guys on that defense. There's a lot of old guys on that defense. And they're starting to play better. So I think that's where you combine it all, and that's why they're playing better. I do think they're going to win the division because I think they'll beat the Browns this week, and that pretty much locks up the division. And so they're going to be a threat in the playoffs. It's going to be hard to go to Pittsburgh and win.
I look at it like this. The DK news does give me some worry a little bit. Now, the only thing is, if the Steelers run the ball like they did last week, then I'm not concerned because the Browns' run defense has been abysmal the last couple of weeks. And if they're able to get Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren more specifically going, then I think they run away with this division. Because like you said, all they do is
by the way, by the time they play, they might know if they have won the division or not because the
Ravens
and Packers.
Right.
Yeah, so
the Ravens could be eliminated.
Yeah. Pete's point about the defense playing significantly better. Remember, Pete, we were talking about this earlier in the year. This is the highest paid defense in football. And it was abysmal in the beginning of the year. And I know you talked about them having some guys long in the tooth on that defense. And that was a great performance because they were out without T.J. Watt and Nick Herbig. And they had, Highsmith and Jack Sawyer starting in that game. And Highsmith's a really good player. But Jack Sawyer played really well on the edge for them. They just know how to draft outside linebackers and get them to play at a certain level. Jalen Ramsey has to move into the slot in the game, in the middle of the game, because their nickel corner, Echols, gets hurt. And they don't lose a beat. Actually, he kind of elevates them at the slot position and plays really well there. This is a team that wants to run the ball. They want to be able to take some play-action shots with DK Metcalf. And Aaron Rodgers is getting the ball out of his hands in under 2 seconds. Right? Good luck trying to sack him because it's not going to happen because he knows exactly where to go with the football. The one thing that I really loved this last week, Pete, was they made the Lions play to their brand of football. They dictated that game. And for them to have a chance to make a run in the playoffs, they have to force their opponent to do that. They can't chase points. And that's why I was concerned in the Lions game. So I'm like, if the Lions get up, it's going to be tough because that's not the type of brand of football they want to play. But they dictated. I believe the Lions only had 6 plays in the third quarter because they owned the time of possession. That's the Steeler-type football that they want to play. And if they're able to do that, then they could shock a lot of teams.
It wasn't all that long ago we were talking about that run defense being a liability against the Dolphins on Monday night. They clamped down then. They clamped down lately. So as of now, much improved defense on that unit, to your guys' point, in terms of what the Steelers have ahead of them, which is a couple games if they can hold off the Ravens. Ravens had a chance on Sunday night to inch. You guys are both shaking your head because it's another fourth quarter double-digit type loss, Pete Prisco, for this Ravens team. John Harbaugh, how much of this falls on him, you think?
Well, I mean, ultimately it all falls on him. He's the head coach. When you have success, he gets the credit. When you have failures, he deserves the blame. And so, a lot of it falls on him. But the injuries have been a factor. Lamar Jackson hasn't been Lamar Jackson at all this year, and at some point that becomes an issue. He wasn't running like he normally did. That takes your offense. It changes your offense. Why wasn't Derrick Henry on the field at the end of the game? I mean, that's mystifying to me. After he scored the touchdown, he didn't get any more carries. And I don't know what they were doing. And so, it falls on right at the feet of John Harbaugh. And, there's people that want him out. And has it gotten stale? Is it time for a change? I don't think they'll make a change, but the question is legitimately out there to be asked. And so with Lamar Jackson not being healthy, that changes the whole dynamic of the team.
Correct.
The offense changes, the structure of the offense changes, and they're in big trouble right now.
My question for the Ravens is, this window of this iteration of this team, is it closed? Right, because that's a real question they have to ask themselves. When you look at it, I believe Marlon Humphrey is free. Roquan is getting up.
And he's playing bad football.
Yeah, lately he was playing really well earlier in the season. He hasn't been playing well the last couple of weeks. And that defense as a whole, right? That defense was kind of leading the team over the last 5 weeks. The last 2 weeks, it hasn't been good. You have an 11-point fourth quarter lead. You got to close that game out on the defensive side, and they haven't been able to do that. And the thing that's ailed them is they don't have a constant pass rush. right? If it's not Draymond Jones, and a lot of times when you turn on film, he's getting chipped, hit with the tight end and the tackle, and nobody else is winning their one-on-ones. And that allows the quarterback, like Drake May did this last week, to survey the entire field and go through 3 progressions and find Stephon Diggs on deep dig routes. Like, that is what's plagued this team. And you talked about Lamar Jackson. For the life of me, even with him getting injured, and you said it, why is Derrick Henry not on the field?
He fumbled, but he still is.
He atoned for that by the second quarter.
Right.
Like,
There
is no excuse. And I get, like, you're trying to rotate guys because he fumbled the ball earlier in the season, but it's just like, you talked about it, Pete. 4-yard run, then a 22-yard run, and then he scores a 2-yard touchdown. And in the last 7 minutes, he never sees the field again.
It's mystifying.
Like, as a head coach, you should look at your coordinator and be like, what are you thinking right now? Like,
with
you don't
the backup
22,
quarterback in the game.
and you're up in the game to close it out. This is one of the best closers in football. Right. So, yes, it falls on John Harbaugh 100%. Yes, we can blame Todd Monken, but as the head coach, heavy as the head that wears the crown, this is on you. And you see it right here. This is what's mystifying to me, Tommy. Most blown leads of 10 plus points in the fourth quarter since 2000. He's number 1 on that list. Like, that's stuff I know.
Well, they've also coached a lot of games, those guys, too.
That is true, but the thing that's always synonymous with them is just like blowing massively. Like, week 1. Like, there's no excuse to lose that game versus the Bills. There's no excuse to lose that game.
And Lamar was healthy in that game.
So it's just like, something's got to change. Again, I don't know. I feel like this window for this team is closed because they've put subsequent pieces around Lamar. Remember, they had the number 1 seed. They couldn't get it done against Patrick Mahomes last year. They had the Bills on the ropes, and they couldn't finish that game.
The injuries are starting to become a concern with Lamar, too.
Right.
It's just like with Joe Burrow. Those injuries are concerning with those guys.
Rebound from that. No, Nnamdi Madubuike also has hurt this team long-term as well. We talk about guys up front being able to do pressure. So those are the 2 longer tenured head coaches here. Raheem Morris not as long tenured out in Atlanta. Of course, they're officially eliminated from the postseason, but starting to string some things together. But Pete, again, it's always an eye on what they can do because every year it seems like we come into this year that they're one piece away. They're right there with the Tampa Bay Bucks the last 5 years, and they keep falling short. So what are you trying and wanting to see out of this Atlanta?
Well, I mean, you can't count on this because it's Kirk Cousins.
Right.
I mean, this isn't who they wanted to be. They want to be Michael Penix and leading them to the playoffs. So this is like you cast whatever's happening now. You cast aside. Is it going to save Raheem's job? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. We'll see this week. They play the Rams. We'll get a better idea. If they beat the Rams, then maybe he saves his job. But they're playing better because they're getting the ball to Bijan Robinson a lot more. And I think they need to. I think he needs to become, what do you have, 170 yards last week, total offense? He's been great this year. But they haven't been good for a lot of reasons. I mean, the quarterback situation has been bad. You've had guys going in and out of the lineup. You know, Drake London's been in and out of the lineup. The offensive line has lost some guys up front. And so they haven't been as good as we thought they would be on offense. And this was supposed to be the year Michael Penix went to the next level. And, you know, he got hurt, and he wasn't playing that well before he got hurt.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks when it comes to Raheem Morris. I will say kudos to him for keeping this team together and fighting. I know you brought up Bijan Robinson. Another guy that we've been mystified why they haven't been able to get the ball, Kyle Pitts. Right, Kyle Pitts, I believe, is second
against Tampa. He did.
Well, the last like month and a half, he's been probably the best tight end in football.
Trying to make some of that money.
Yeah, like when you look at it, like I believe he's second in the NFL at the tight end position in receiving yards, right behind Trey McBride. This is the guy that we thought was going to be a top 4 pick. So it's just like, why haven't they been able to get that connection with him and Penix, where him and Cousins have been able to get that? So there's going to be a lot of question marks with this team when it comes to the personnel because Drake London's due for a deal. I think Bijan is eligible to get a new deal as well, and you're going to have to pay him. I mean, he leads the league in all-purpose or scrimmage yards this year, and he's one of the most explosive weapons in football. But the biggest question, like you said, Pete, what are they going to do with the quarterback position? Do they, bring in a new coach for this young quarterback to try to, get the best out of him and develop him? Because he didn't take that step that we thought he would take.
You know what happens in certain situations like this? The head coach is told, okay, you're going to have to give me a head on a platter, and he might give him the offensive coordinator's head on a platter, and Raheem stays there. That happens in this league. You've seen it happen many a time.
For sure.
I know consistency is obviously the key to success, but when they beat Buffalo, they looked like they were world beaters. They were certainly on this nice trajectory, and then it's like, where was this same team?
And let's not forget, they don't have a first-round pick either. They traded that away for Pierce.
But they didn't fix the pass rush this year.
Yeah, those guys can get after the quarterback. They did do that. They have some good young talent on that team.
So that's a look at the middle tiers in terms of Pete Prisco's power ranked teams that we've talked about. We're going to hit another break here on the show and kind of go in the bottom tier, which is not something we really want to talk about. But Giants and Raiders draft. We'll talk about the implications next. Welcome back to the show. So we've gone top 3 tiers, middle tiers. Here are the bottom 2 tiers. Down bad. When's the last time we've seen the Chiefs this far down in the power rankings? Got to be a while.
Shout out to the Saints, though, man. They're out of the dumpster fire.
They're playing
really well the last couple weeks.
Yep, out of the dumpster fire, and a compliment that they're down bad. That's the New Orleans perspective right now. But then you see 30 and 32. Giants and Raiders this week. Also, the Titans in the conversation for top overall pick in next year's draft. All right, so back here with Pete and Lige. Pete, what do you think both teams are going to do, thinking about the implications of a loss helping you down the road or winning to try to get you there in the near term?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, you're a football player. You go out and you play. You can't go out there and with the idea that you're not going to give it 100%. You're going to get hurt. And so from a player standpoint, there's nothing they can do. Nothing. You're going to go play. Now, could a team hold players out? Like if the Raiders really wanted the first overall pick, would you tell Max Crosby to hurt his calf or something?
Like Kenny Pickett?
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is you go out and you play.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to win the game for the good of the organization? If you're a fan of the Raiders, do you want to win that game? Hell no. If you're a fan of the Giants, do you want to win that game? Hell no. But somebody's got to win the game. You still would rather have the first overall pick.
Yeah, major draft implications in this game. But to Pete's point, like the players, they're not thinking about draft implications next year because how does that benefit them? A lot of them could be on one-year deals. And if you go out there and put out bad tape, that's part of your resume. And other teams are looking at that. Trust me, teams look at games like this closely, right? Down the stretch. How did you finish the game? How did you handle adversity when they're looking at free agents to potentially bring into their building? So the players are going to go out there and play hard, but to Pete's point, whoever loses this game could benefit them in the long haul. When it comes to the Giants, they seem to have their quarterback, but people are going to pay a boatload to potentially move up to the
that's why
spot.
everybody's rooting for the Giants to lose that game. Because if the Raiders have the first overall pick, they're going to take, if there's 2 top quarterbacks, if it's Mendoza
or Dante
Moore,
yeah.
they're taking one of them.
Yeah.
The Giants aren't necessarily going to, so if you're the Browns or the Jets and you have those draft picks, you might be able to go up. If you want to get a quarterback, you could go make that move. So you're rooting for the Giants to lose the game so they end up with the number 1 overall pick.
That's the thought process, that the Giants have their guy in Jackson Dart, and if they get number 1, they could shop it around and get more capital assets there. So we'll see how that goes out. Guys, certainly appreciate it again. Check out Pete Prisco's entire power rankings on CBSSports.com. You can also check out Pete on Game Day Recap, Sundays at 8:20 Eastern. Those takes that you saw right here on this show, you get them on that show Sunday nights.